Mirika, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and have this conversation. I so appreciate that. I really do.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited to be here with you.
Thank you. So I want to just dive right in, if you're fine with this. What got started you on this healing journey, right? You deal with a lot with helping moms with anxiety, a lot of the self-forgiveness process. What started you on that journey?
Thank you. Yeah, so it started without me actually knowing years and years and years ago.
Mm,
So the very first time I kind of started my, I guess, self-healing journey was, I think, in 2014 or 15. And it was, no, actually, it was 2016, sorry, 2016. And it was the first time I had ever done something for myself. So a bit of back history about that is, so I was with my partner from about 15, and so now I'm 31. And I was very codependent, right? Coming from a toxic
mm,
upbringing, I was just always trying to find love and, feel validated and needed and all the things. And so it was a very big thing for me in 2016. I applied for like an acting school scholarship for summer in America. And I was like, oh, I'll just see if I get it, I get it. And I applied for it and I got it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I told my partner that I was going to go to America for 10 weeks by myself. And he was like, oh, okay, we'll see. Because I always kind of said that I was going to do things and I never actually did them. And so anyways, fast forward, ended up going. And I realized looking back now and reflecting that that was the first time I really ever did something for myself and kind of started to, be on the journey of self-healing and self-development. Anyways, fast forward again, I started to feel really stuck. And after I got married, had children, I started to feel really stuck. And I started to feel, I just remember feeling like, what's wrong with me? Like there's something wrong. Like, I had high anxiety, I suffered from depression. I was always triggered by things and I always really thought negatively. I was always like worst case scenario. And I was like, why? Like, well, this is not life. And I always knew like, we're created for something so much bigger. And for me, I knew consciously that we're here on earth to live the best life that we can. However, my actions in my life were not playing that out. And I was just like,
mm,
what is going on? So then that's when I really like started to look in self-love and self-healing and self-development. And I enlisted a coach. And that's when my eyes were like, whoa, I understand now. And yeah, that's exactly why I'm so passionate about working with women, especially moms, because I know how it feels. Moms really are so self-serving. Not self-serving, sorry, they really serve other people, right? So it's like the children are first and their partners, and like literally every single person is in front of them, and then moms put themselves last and they really are only surviving.
mm.
But if moms are not doing 100%, then no one is getting 100% of them. Everyone's getting like maybe 10 or 20%. And so it's not really fair on anyone at all. And really just allowing moms to step into their power and be the woman they want to be, instead of just identifying as a mom.
Mm. That specifically what you said right there, allowing them to step into their power, to be who they want to be and who they know they are, instead of just identifying as a mom. It's nothing. I've had this conversation with many people. It's nothing, actually just yesterday, it's nothing against identifying with them as mom. If that's what you want, hell yeah. But if that's your sole purpose, meaning, drive, everything in life, what happens when, say, the kids go off, right? What happens when something happens? And so with my question to kind of follow up and go in that vein is, was there anything, a big catalyst for you other than what you said? So you said the first thing that you noticed was, or the first time that you had self-love is you went on this 10-week thing here in the US. Was there any other things that kind of like compiled up to bring you to this breaking point where it's like, oh my God, I need to take care of me?
Yeah. So I ended up kind of like working for like a health and wellness company. So my life slowly started to go in that direction without me forcing it. It was just kind of flowing. And then my husband actually ended up cheating on me when I was 6 weeks pregnant with my third child. And that's when I was really like, oh my gosh, there's again, like the cycle. I just felt stuck and I felt really just hopeless and unloved and alone. And, I had done work prior to that, but I guess going in the direction of forgiveness, like when that happened, I really started to think there there's something that I need to really focus on, right? And
You're
I
fine.
really need to focus on something, and the focus was me. And yeah, that was for me, that was like the biggest push.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I do talk to my clients, I say to them, because they're all like, I can see the pattern playing out for them. And I don't want women, or I don't, especially moms, I don't want them to have to go through something as significant as I went through before they start to realize their self-worth and value.
Mm.
Luckily for me, I had already done work prior, but this was the thing that kind of kicked my butt and was like, you really need to get serious about, self-development and really dive in deep.
That makes sense. Why do you think it's so common for moms to have like their entire identity, meaning, and purpose wrapped up in being a mom? Why do you think that is?
There's a few parts. It's a really good question, but there are a few parts to it, but mainly because we're pushed into it by society, right? So as soon as you become, actually, not even when you become a mom, but even when you're pregnant, it's like, oh, you're going to be a mom soon, oh, how excited are you going to be a mom? Are you a first time parent? Is this your first child? Are you going to have another child? It's like, I'm still pregnant. Let me have my first baby. And then it's like, and then it's, once you have the child, it's all about the baby, which is amazing. Of course, celebrate life, celebrate a new blessing. But it's like, are you a working mom? Are you a stay-at-home mom? Are you going to breastfeed mom? Are you going to bottle feed mom? Are you a good mom, a bad mom? Like everything is, your identity becomes a mom. Right? And again, yes, that's amazing because it's so important. But women get lost in the identity of mom, which is forced upon them.
Right. So do you think it's like, it's incredibly valuable and it's important because like every waking second, it feels like is consumed by this thing that is 100% dependent on you for a few years? Or do you think like it starts off like that and it becomes more, they get lost in it, right? Other people start to push it on them more and more, and they kind of get lost in this cycle?
So, well, in my experience and me personally, and with my clients, it's from the get-go.
Right from the get-go.
Kind of
Yeah.
Because a lot of like the dads go back to work, whereas the moms, especially for me, I had a full-time job prior, and then I had my baby. I had to go on maternity leave, and then I just remember crying. I think it was like day 3, and I was in the shower crying, hysterically crying, and all I could think of was, who am I? Like, I'm not going to be making my own money anymore, right? I'm like a little, like you said, like a little child is so dependent on me now for everything, and I never experienced that before, and I don't think any advice from anyone can really prepare you for being a mom or being a parent, but also having someone dependent on you fully 24 hours a day. Like it's exhausting.
Right. 100%. And so you had said a couple of times while you were in this relationship with your husband and you were working through that catalyst, right? That got you to start focusing on yourself. You said you had to push through, or you had to work through feeling stuck, feeling hopeless. You had to work through forgiveness. What did that working through those feelings look like? I think a lot of people talk about it and say, oh, work through your feelings and, forgive this person. It's like, sure, great. It's not wrong. But like, there's very little people talk about the practicality of it and how, like, what that actually looks like.
Yeah, it was hard. It was messy. It was, some days I was like primal screaming into a pillow for hours and I was just crying. And I would walk around about to eat a sandwich and start crying, and yeah, it's really hard. Exactly what you said, people often say like, move through your feelings, but what does it actually look like? So for me, after my husband had told me what had happened, I think this was a couple of months later, I obviously was mortified by his actions, but I really had to sit with myself, and I did like a year long. For a whole year, I did research, I did practices, I did tours, I did, everything that I could possibly think of to move through and to really be able to forgive, right? Because even though I had done all this work prior, like I had many coaches, I had been in many programs, I always fought a massive block, and I didn't know what it was. And every coach I spoke to, they're like, yes, we'll figure it out. But yes, layers were peeled back, but there was still this massive block. And so when this happened, and it was a horrible situation, but I believe everything happens for a reason and it's a gift. So it was a blessing in disguise, right? Because I was really able to sit in forgiveness for a whole year, and that unblocked that heavy cloud. And for me, what it looked like was researching. I researched so much. Like I researched why men cheat, like all the things, psychology behind cheating, everything. And then I started really implementing tools like, gratitude. I did gratitude. I did affirmations. I did journaling, all that stuff. But then also I took ownership. I was like, and that was the hardest thing. That was the hardest thing to do. Yeah.
Can you
ownership.
dive into that? Because that's resonating a lot right now.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, I can't even remember what I watched or something. And it was I think it was a YouTube video, but it was the only video that spoke about ownership. Everything else was like, oh, men cheat because of this. It's like, it's normal. And I was like, it's not normal. It's not, And the ownership one really resonated and it really hit me. And I was like, but it's not my fault, right? I knew it wasn't my fault for his actions. But then I was like, there's something, like he wouldn't have just done that if I was the perfect wife or like the wife that he needed me to be. And so with taking ownership, I really had to sit with how was I as a girlfriend, as a fiance, as a wife up until this moment. And that truly like was liberating for me, because then I could really understand why it played out the way it did. And again, like it's hard, but I was really like, you know what? If I'm going to be very honest with myself, I neglected my husband, right? I was more focused on my baby. He didn't get who he fell in love with in the very beginning. Like I wasn't that fun person anymore. I was, again, like just a mom, right? No, I don't have time. Like the baby needs me.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I really had to take ownership that I didn't, I wasn't doing all the things that I was doing in the beginning. And yes, people change and people grow, but I could still be fun. I could still show him affection and be intimate with him. And I wasn't. Right. I remember I said to him a few times, like, I'm good. I can be celibate. It's fine. Right. And like, no man wants to hear that.
Right.
But And like, so it was a massive change for him. And that's where I really took ownership is, I just wasn't the woman he fell in love with. And it was more like just a roommate, and how I spoke to him, and, I was in my masculine so much, and it's hard for a man. It's hard for a man to feel appreciated. And it's like talking about this, like it's a pattern with mums, is that their partner gets neglected, not by purpose of the mom, but it just happens. We are so focused on our babies that it's kind of like, well, you're a grown adult, you'll be fine. But in reality, they need us as well.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing this up, this aspect of ownership. Not obviously my show, it's called Beyond Forgiveness. So forgiveness is a journey that it's been very crucial for my healing journey. And my warrior's journey has been a pivotal moment was around the forgiveness, forgiving the other person, but then forgiving myself as well. And when you look into forgiveness, like you said, so few people actually talk about the meat and potatoes of it, the ownership. And when they do, they often talk about it as if it's victim blaming, as if it's, oh, well, it's your fault. And it's not, but it doesn't mean you didn't play a role. And it's not, but it doesn't mean you can't take ownership of your slice of the pie, right? It's not, but it doesn't mean that you are completely innocent and that everything just happened to you as a victim. Like, we've all done things, and that being able to accept that makes such a difference. Like you said, it's liberating. So my question for you is, how so many people tend to resist that. So many people tend to put up all these walls, and that's the last thing that they want to hear. And I understand, because it's not fun, and it's work, and it challenges everything about yourself, and your identity as a victim is woe is me. And that's very comfortable to live in. I get it. But for you, what do you think gets people to that place where they can accept that ownership? What do you think can get people there?
Yeah. I just want to touch on what you said about, people are addicted to pain, right? Some people love being a victim. And for me to take ownership, I had to make the decision if I wanted to go down the path of my parents, or if I was going to truly be in integrity and create the life I wanted.
Mm.
And that was the main difference, because it's a cycle, right? Until you break the cycles, they continue to happen. And so with my parents, they cheated. Like, my dad cheated on my mum multiple times, and then he cheated on his wife after that multiple times. And so subconsciously for me, it was normal. And I never healed that part of me, right? Because I was always like, I'm never going to be like that. It's disgusting. But I was coming from a fear energy. And same as my partner, fear energy from all of that. And so, it's inevitable that it was going to happen to me, right? Because we didn't heal that, and we weren't coming from love in that space. But that's how I was able to move forward and face that. Like, I knew it was going to be hard. I knew it was going to be messy, but I looked at my children and I thought, you know what? I don't want this cycle to happen. I don't want them to continue this cycle. And I remember thinking, am I going to truly, truly forgive him and stay with him, or end it, right? Or be like, yeah, I forgive him, but then hold it over his head for the next 20 years. Mm-hmm. And then for me, I just thought, what is the best option for myself and my children? And I've had this conversation with him. I had this multiple conversations with him. And, the difference with me deciding to stay and truly forgive and give everything that I can was that I really saw that he was remorseful for his actions. If he kind of was like, get over it, whatever, I would have forgiven him. I still would have been in the process of forgiveness and ownership and things like that, but I probably wouldn't have stayed. But I really saw, that he was like, I'm so sorry. This is the worst thing I've ever done in my life, all the things. And I was like, okay, cool. And then, so then I was like, okay, yeah, that made my decision a lot easier, whether I was going to stay or not. But then, really, and you know what? I'll just tell you a bit of a story, is that because I consulted 3 of my really close circle when this happened, and my sister and 2 of my really good friends. And one of my good friends said to me, she knows many people who have been in the same situation and they don't forgive, right? Or they say they forgive, but they continue to hold on to it, and the way they speak to their partner and all the things, and then the children start to mimic the same behavior toward the dad. And I remember my husband would come home late sometimes. I'm like, oh, like, where were you? How come you were late? That's exactly how I said it, right? And then I remember my son one day saying to him, I didn't even say anything. Like, he was just like, oh, Daddy, you're late. Where were you? And I was like, oh, crap. Because kids pick up on energy, right? They pick up on everything that's happening. And I just thought, oh my gosh, the cycle is going to repeat itself. And that's when I was like, no, I have to really get shit sorted. Like, I can't let this continue on, for my own sanity, but then also for them.
Wow, that's a really powerful story to see that cycle in action, and then help to have the awareness and be like, oh shit, if I don't do something right now, this is just going to repeat itself. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your vulnerability on this topic. I really appreciate that. I think a lot of people need to hear the nitty gritty, and that it's not an easy process, and it's not an easy process, but it's worth it. And if you're willing to put in the work, it can change your life. So thank you. When it comes to forgiveness, you deal a lot with forgiveness and not with anxiety. When it comes to forgiveness and anxiety, we can go for both of them. What are some of the common misconceptions that people have, either around the actual topic itself or around the healing or dealing with?
Okay, so with forgiveness, I always hear, I don't want to forgive that person because you'll let them free. Or, and I'm just like, no, but that's not it at all. Forgiveness is never for the other person. Forgiveness is truly for yourself, to really allow yourself to, again, like it is the most liberating thing to really truly forgive someone, not kind of, I forgive them, but you're still triggered by them or talking crap about them or allow them to live rent free in your mind. True forgiveness is liberating. For me, it is the true thing to really move you forward. Right. And yes, you can do all the other mindset stuff and all the things. Yes, it helps. But forgiveness for me is the key to true transformation, to true liberation, to really living the life that you want. And another misconception is that you can't you never forgive someone. I hear that all the time.
Really?
I never want to forgive that. I don't deserve it. Yeah, I'm just like,
they don't deserve it. Oh, no, yeah, that.
Yeah, and it's not again, it's not about the other person. It is for you. And you know what? Also, in saying that, I'm just gonna be very honest.
Yeah.
Why don't they deserve your forgiveness?
Mm.
Why? Why can't you be kind? Why is there such a thing in society that you have to pay back the other person? Right? I'm not going to forgive you because you hurt me. It doesn't do anything for them if you don't forgive them. A lot of the time, they don't even know that you're holding onto a grudge about them. Right? A lot of the time, they're still living their life. They don't care. They don't know that you're annoyed at them. And so, yeah, so forgiveness is, again, not about them. It's pulling you out of the drama triangle. It's pulling you out of being a victim and pulling you really into who you want to be and stepping you into your power and cutting off the leaky energy, you know? And I hear a lot about anxiety is, you know, I will never not have anxiety. Or like anxiety is my anxiety. I hear my anxiety a lot. And I'm just like, but it's not yours. Anxiety is not, I truly believe that all of these things like anxiety, depression, all of those things, we are not created to have them or to live with them. Yes, we will have feelings of, you know, sadness and anger and resentment and anxiety and all the things, right? But we are not created or destined to live like that.
Yeah. So can I jump in here real quick with a question? What do you believe is, how do I want to word this? What is the purpose of anxiety?
So the purpose of anxiety is really to keep people living small and to live in fear. And you can see that with what's going on in the world right now. There is a lot of fear mongering, and a lot of people that I speak to, their anxiety is so high and it keeps them small. I'm like, why don't you just do this? No, like I don't know what's going to happen.
That
right?
fear.
No,
right.
Yeah, worst case scenario. And essentially what anxiety is fear of the future. You know, and yeah, I hear it all the time. People are like, oh, but I don't know what's going to happen next year. I don't know either, but I still take risks and I still stretch myself and I still put myself out there and live fully expressed because that's the life that I want. And that's I've created an amazing life from doing all the things, right?
Come on, right.
But the purpose of anxiety is to really keep people small. You know, in Australia, I know especially in Australia and New Zealand, it's like tall poppy syndrome. We all have it, right? It's tall poppy syndrome. It's where we just play small, like especially from when we're younger. It stems back to childhood. We're always told, shut up, be quiet, your opinion doesn't matter, your voice doesn't matter. And so children go into adults who are fearful, who have anxiety, who play small because they don't believe they're good enough.
So what are things that you can do to like work through that anxiety? And then what are things, actually, I want to follow up with a second question. What are things that your partner can do to help you work through that anxiety?
Really getting a coach or being in a program, because you have to learn the tools and techniques, right? And you have to have
treating it not like it's something permanent, but like it's something that you're working through.
Yeah, because it's not permanent.
Yeah.
It's a mindset, and so having someone in your corner who can really be your cheerleader, but also help you move through and support you and guide you through the next level. And one of the things that people can start doing now is really practicing gratitude, because that brings you back into your body and brings you back into the present moment, rather than, oh my gosh, what's going to happen in 5 years? Or, oh my goodness, tonight's going to be such a hard night because the kids are going to, just thinking of the worst case scenarios, really pulling yourself back and being in nature. Whenever I feel, before, not now because I'm I've, do all the practices and tools. But when I used to really suffer from anxiety, I would find such peace in nature. And so one of the things I, say to my clients is go into nature, get your feet on the ground or lie on the ground and just be still and really practice gratitude.
I've heard gratitude, and that makes sense. If anxiety is so much about the fear of the future, like you said, gratitude, that's so like literally grounding you to the present moment.
Yeah. That's like one of the quickest ways, I guess, the most simplest things to do to really pull you back to your body and be like, okay, you know what? I have no control of what's going to happen in the future. So let me just focus on what I can focus on now. And in terms of your partner, really having the open communication, right? Because how are they to know how to hold space for you, or how to really support you if you don't speak to them? I remember I used to do this with my partner all the time. I used to just snap at him or be like, why can't you, whatever. One example, like, why don't you understand? But he's not a mind reader. How's he meant to understand what I'm going through if I'm bottled up and just, expecting him to know what I'm thinking or what I'm going through? He has no idea. And that's another thing. That's what I find a lot with my clients is they really start to resent their partner because they don't know how to hold space for them, or they don't know how to really support them. And then I'm like, but did you have the conversation? They're like, no, but he should know. How? Like, just like us, how would we know? How would we know? If my husband was going through something and didn't tell me, how would I know?
That's huge. Gratitude and communication. Pillars, absolute pillars. Thank you. So when I want to kind of take this off of some of the modalities and some of the details that we've been talking about and go into a little more abstract, or a little more bigger vision questions. The first one is, what was one of the most healing lessons that you've learned?
I'll tell you two of them, right? The first lesson is to trust the process.
I interviewed someone yesterday, and that was exactly what they said. Kelly Espino, that's exactly what she said. Trust the process. Love that. Okay, so what does that mean to you? And why that, actually? And then we'll go into the second one.
Okay, so for me, it's really, again, not trying to control things, right? It's really just to any program I've been in, any coach I've had, any situations that occur, really being in receivership of whatever it is that's come through, instead of blocking it or having high expectations or expecting things, right? Because that kind of hinders my receiving. And so really surrender to the process and really just be open to receive. Even if it might be painful, what is the gift in that? Right? Because a lot of the time when you're in receivership, where's the gift? In every situation, it's like, what is the gift? Why is this happening for me rather than to me? Or why is this happening through me?
Why is this happening for me or through me rather than to me? Ooh, if you don't mind, I'm going to start saying that. I will 100% give you credit, but I love that. Wow.
No, it's fine. No, so I heard it so many times. Like, it's not my own.
Okay, perfect. I've never heard it phrased like that. And just when someone says something and it resonates, I always take notice. I always take note and start looking for that. And that resonated strongly. One of the big things I say here is you can always find the pain, or you can always find the purpose in the pain. And that this is just a much better way to say that. And I love that. Thank you. So keep going. Sorry.
So that's the first one. And the second one would really be, like, presence is so important.
Presence.
Yeah, because I know as a mom, it's really, there's been times where my children want to play with me, and I'm like, oh, okay, let's go play. And I'm not present with them. And then I think at the end of the night, why do I feel so guilty about not spending time with, like, my babies, right? And yes, like, I have my business and I have, like, my husband I have to worry about, and not even worry about him, but, like, my business and my husband, and, like, our friend, life and all the things. But it's really quieting the noise or canceling the noise and thinking, like finding what's so important. And for me, like, one of the lessons is just to really be present and to be okay with not having to be on the go all the time, because there is so much peace in presence, right? And that, for me, that's another lesson, is really, really being present with everything that I do, making sure that there are no distractions, and quieting my mind, and really, being present is so important.
Was there anything in particular that brought this lesson to light, or was it just the kind of culmination of years of like realizing, oh shit, this is what happens when I'm not present, and kind of realizing why that's important? Or was there like a particular event?
Yeah, no, so it's been over years, right? I remember being at a concert, like a Rihanna concert, years and years and years ago, and everyone's just on their phone. And I think it was the first time where I put my phone down, and I thought, wow, I'm really enjoying this experience, because I've recorded previous concerts, and I never watched the video again. But I missed so many things that a camera can't catch. Right, how I was feeling, maybe she would have like did her facial expressions or whatever I missed, right? And 100%. So I just remember thinking, I even said to my husband, like, oh, not back then, he was my boyfriend back then, but I remember saying to my boyfriend, like, let's not have our phones, let's just and really be in this moment, and let's just really enjoy it. And so we were like one of the only ones in the seated row that was dancing and like loving life. So ever since then, it's kind of been not as like, this year especially has been so important for me, and has really kicked my butt in being present, because like I realize, like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, my children are growing so fast, and they'll say something or they'll do something, and I used to think, oh my gosh, like, just I'm trying to do work, leave me alone. But I had to switch my mindset. And so my mindset, instead of them trying to annoy me, is, mommy, can you just witness me?
Oh.
And so when I switched that, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be present with them.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's powerful. That's a powerful switch.
Yeah.
Man. Yeah, I'm gonna give that a second and let that one sink in. Thank you. Again, so many things you're saying here are resonating. So I really appreciate this. I really do. So this next question is going to sound like it's completely out in left field, and it kind of is. So that's fair. But if let's just take a minute, and you can imagine that you are on your deathbed, right? You're in your final hours, and you have some of your closest friends and family there beside you. What's the one piece of advice that you would leave them with?
I guess I would just ask them a question. I think I would just say, are you happy? Are you happy where you're at?
God damn. Yeah. That is a beautiful and powerful question.
I think that's
happy where you're at. Wow. So, can I prod a little bit here?
Yeah.
Okay. Where does that question come from?
Well, I guess when you asked me that question, my mind went to, when a lot of people are on their deathbed and they have so many regrets.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, I wish I had done this when I was younger, or I wish I took the opportunity, or I wish I just adjusted to myself, or, fill in the blank, whatever it may be. And so I guess if they see me dying, me asking them that question, they would reflect not only on my life, but it would really kind of open their minds and their eyes to be like, wow, is this the life that I want? Like, have I truly done everything to make me happy, or, to live a happy life, or to chase my dreams, or to achieve my goals, or whatever it may be. So then they can reflect on their life and be like, okay, if yes, amazing, keep going. But if no, then what changes can they make or implement, or what transformation do they need?
Right. That makes so much sense. And especially with the work that you do, helping people through this forgiveness and through anxiety, like that, those are crippling things that will keep you from living from being happy. It'll keep you from pursuing the things that you want to. It'll keep you from having that exact regret that you just mentioned. So I just want to say thank you for the work that you do. sometimes when you talk with people, there's some disconnects. Some people, they do this and everything's just kind of off in the air. Yours is everything you do is seems to be very intentional. And I really appreciate that. Yeah.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. And it's always on my list to ask people as I get to know them is, are you happy? It's one of the most powerful questions you can ask.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely. Because you usually ask people, are you okay?
Yeah, exactly. Big difference. Big difference.
That's a good difference. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That really gets people to think. Because I know if someone said to me, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. You can easily write that off.
Yeah. But are you happy? I feel like they can't really hide that, right? Because their face might change or their body language will change. Yeah, that's a really powerful question.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. So final question, is there anything that we've talked about in this interview that you would like to go deep in, or any question that you wanted me to ask that I didn't get into, or anything you wanted to touch on that we haven't yet?
No, not really, but I really, actually, no, there's one thing.
Oh, yeah,
is to be kind to yourself. Right? Just be kind to yourself. I know that, there's a whole explosion of, self-development and things like that going on right now. And I feel people are just going into one thing and another, and it like never stops. But be kind to yourself and know that, again, like trust the process, know that everything's happening for you at the right time when it's meant to, and that integration is so important. Rest is so important, as well as the healing and doing all the tools. So it's just really important, to be kind to yourself, trust the process, and rest.
Trust the process, rest, be kind to yourself. Goddamn. Thank you so much. I so appreciate this conversation. Thank you for your time and for your insight. So many things that you said resonate. I am going to have so much fun going back and editing this interview. I firmly believe that you can tell someone's ready to work through something when someone says something and it resonates, they understand, and that there's some sort of connection, whether they logically know it or not. And so many different things that you mentioned today resonated really strongly with me. And I don't know exactly what that's going to look like, but I thank you for that, because that means something's coming. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anytime, honestly.
Well, go right ahead at this point. Go ahead, share your socials. How can people find you? I know you have Stripped Bare, among a bunch of other things. I would love to hear more about that. Go ahead and share your socials and anything else you got.
So my socials, I'm mainly active on Instagram. So it's Mirikakay, Mirikakay. And yes, my Stripped Bare program, it's like my baby. It goes for 10 weeks. We begin the 28th of February. I have one spot left actually for this round coming, but we go deep. We go deep into like inner child work, mindset, transformation, deep connections, like nurturing your relationships. We go into like parenting. We go into, really loving on yourself. And the biggest part is forgiveness of yourself and others. And so, it's just 10 weeks of amazingness. I love it. And I had closed, my books for one-on-one are now open again. I had closed them off for January, but I am taking a wait list now for March one-on-ones, which is exciting. So if you want to hit me up, you can. I do also want to say, if your soul is calling you forward, take the leap. It might be scary, but take the leap.
I love that you end it just like that. Boom. Mic drop. If your soul is pulling you forward, take the leap. It might be scary, but take the leap. Oh, thank you, Mirika. Thank you so much for your time and for your insight into this conversation. As I've said before, I've gotten a lot just in the last 45 minutes. I know other people watching will as well.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be able to speak to you and to everyone else that's listening in.